NYC, the city for flashy Broadways, exclusive shops, expensive apartments, and high-flying business tycoons is where the land of opportunity lies. Or so people think so. To me it's the city for depression, unaffordable rent, unbearable traffic, screaming people, bustling roads and many more. And in this concrete jungle lies one of the most world-famous multinational technology companies, ATC. It's the same company where I've been working for over 4 years, listening to the same morning chant as I was doing now. We are the face of the company, our VP set herself on top of a chair and shouted. We create the connection between the buyer and the seller. We promote the goods. Without us, the ATC is nothing. We are dash. She raised her arms up, the marketing department. She gave out a war cry and everyone around her clapped warily, already exhausted with this utter nonsense. Gosh, the second-hand embarrassment I feel every day for her. I can't dash. Lexi shook her head. This is nothing new. Our VP is crazy. Brian yawned and stretched his arms up, getting ready for another busy working day. Other departments call us weirdos because of her. Lexi sat on her chair and I sat on mine, in between Lexi and Brian. The finance calls us the money-wasting department. Brian mistakenly said it out too loud that the VP heard it from across the room. She looked up and scowled. That's because they are the nerds department, Mr. Scott. Don't you ever dare utter such unholy words in here. I'll report you to the chief, she threatened, and Brian looked down in embarrassment. Sorry ma'am, I told you she has super hearing, Lexi hissed next to me. I swear she's not human. My money is on vampire. I heard werewolves have mates. Alan, who was sitting in front of us, smirked. Maybe I'm your mate, sweetheart. We should fuck before the heat comes. Alan winked and I swear Lexi could have erupted into a pool of lava if I hadn't wrapped my arm around her shoulder. Lexi, relax, chief is coming, I whispered, seeing the chief walking out of the elevator. Our chief/CMO is the head of the marketing department and the only reason we are still sane. He's a nice guy and most importantly the only person who can tell our dearest VP to shut the hell up. Not that he ever says because, duh. He's a nice guy. He's a man in his 50s and loves his family more than anything. His wife is also equally nice. She bakes us cookies, gives us gifts and even invites us to their anniversary parties every year. Good morning everyone, he came to a halt and gave us a big smile. I see y'all already working very hard for the next campaign. Sorry if I disturbed you, my heart is melting. Lexi kept a hand over her heart. Why did he have to be 30 years older than me? Or else I would have married him. Love has no age, Brian whispered. Yes, but he is married, Lexi complained. I never said he isn't, Brian said more angrily. Lexi leaned to the front and looked at Brian. Why are you all fired up? Don't tell me you like an older woman. Is she married? I don't like anyone dash, guy shut up, I hissed. Chief is talking. They shut their mouths and focused back on what the chief was saying. Today all the executives have a meeting with Mr. Kingston about the new product we're going to launch this summer. The smile in Chief's lips fell. But unfortunately my secretary called in sick today. I stiffened and I could see everyone else exchanging frightened glances. We knew exactly what the chief was going to say and it was nothing pleasant. So I was hoping if any of you could accompany me to the meeting. No way. Never in a billion years. Our CEO aka Mr. Lon Kingston is the man you wish you'll never meet. He's the handsome 29-year-old bachelor billionaire to everyone else except the ATC employees. To us he's the devil himself. He's the chairman's son and also one of the most leading business tycoons in the entire world. He started young and been successful ever since. Not a single failure. The main difference he has from others in the Forbes list is that he is very silent. He only speaks to those who he thinks is important. The others, they're just trash. He hates when others make noises or talk or do something that is out of the subject. You'll only make a sound if he allows you to. If not, he'll give you the death glare. The good thing is, he never scolds or shouts. But he would definitely not miss to give the HR department a call and tell to fire you the very next day. So yeah, he's very popular for firing people. Even breathing in front of him could get you fired. In the ATC, the most riskiest and the dangerous job you could ever have is the secretary job. And it's not the job as Mr. Kingston's secretary, but the job as secretary of any of the executives. Mr. Kingston's secretary, Mr. Daniel Collins, is his longtime friend. So that position is out of the picture. But if you get a job as a secretary of an executive, you would have to constantly go to meetings with Mr. Kingston. And that ends up with getting fired. No wonder our chief's secretary called in sick. She was ditching the meeting. Anyone? My mind came reeling back to Chief's words. Anyone likes to volunteer? He asked hopefully, and I almost felt bad. Almost. No matter how nice the chief is, none of us would ever risk our jobs. Lexi, you go, our VP called Lexi, and Lexi looked at her in horror. Ouch, she bent forward clutching her stomach. I have periods, ma'am. Ow. Oh my gosh, I think I'll pass out, she fanned herself with her hand. I don't think I can go. Oh my god, the pain, she cried dramatically. The VP muttered a curse under her breath and glanced at me. Haley, you go then. It was my turn to look at her in horror. Excuse me? I asked in shock. The VP kept her hands on her hips and frowned at me. Are you questioning me, Evans? No, I'm not, ma'am. But, another thing, I'm bad at lying. Go then. I couldn't defy her order, so I stood up, reluctantly. Haley, it's so nice that you can come with me, the chief smiled. Let's go before Mr. Kingston gets mad. I faked a smile and followed him to the elevator and up to the top floor. While we were going, he explained to me what I was supposed to do. It was nothing hard. Just give him the right files at the right time and help him with setting up the presentation. But even though it was nothing hard, I feared that I would trip and fall in front of Mr. Kingston. Or do something more clumsy. I tend to do clumsy things when I'm anxious. The elevator bell dinged and we walked out to the most deadly zone of the entire company. The CEO's floor. He has his own staff and they call themselves the elite staff or some bullshit. But we all knew they needed to be respected. They stay with Mr. Kingston the whole day and more likely to get fired. But they're trained and well selected to their positions. So they knew how to work with him without losing their jobs. 1 point to them, more like 1,000 points, and a bow of respect for them and a little licking of feet. We walked to the end of the hall where the meeting room is. One side of the room is a complete glass wall and I could see the little humans walking on the streets. How nice. The heads of other departments started filling in and they took a seat at the table. Their secretaries stayed standing behind their respective chiefs and I did the same. After everyone arrived, I saw another figure, a much more handsome and young man coming in. He looked up at the executives and my breath hitched in my throat. It was Lon Kingston. I had never seen him this close before. It was always far away at an event or far away in the parking lot where VIP cars parked. And up close he was gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous. He had black hair with deep blue eyes, a prominent jaw curved gracefully among the strength of his neck. He was over 6 feet tall and had strong arms, a firm chest rippling through his black suit. He strode to the front of the room and pulled back his chair. Our chief was sitting next to the head chair, so at the moment I was standing right next to Lon Kingston. And seeing him up close, I did the worst possible thing I could have ever done. I hiccuped. Lon tilted his head up and looked at me. Our gazes locked. For a moment I felt breathless as I stared at those eyes of his, the color of midwinter sky that swirled with 1,000 hues of blue. They were cold but warm at the same time and I felt hypnotized, wanting to get myself lost in them. His face showed no rage, completely blank just like everyone else had said. A man void of emotions. And then I did it again. I hiccuped. I gasped and covered my mouth with my hand. Dear Lord, what have I done? He raised a brow and I could already see the impending results of my actions in his eyes. The call I would receive from the HR department. My resignation letter. Lon. A high-pitched voice came from the hallway and Lon wrenched his gaze away from mine. Darling, you there? A tall red-haired woman in a white tight dress came to the door. Oh, I didn't know you were in a meeting, she giggled. A look of utter annoyance crossed over Lan's face. By the way, she approached him. I bought 2 dresses but I don't know what to wear for dinner. Take her away, Lon barked loudly, anger lacing his voice. Everyone standing and sitting looked up at Lon in shock and it took me a moment to realize what he just did. He reacted. He never gets angry, never gets happy, but now the woman's presence made him go mad. And his mad self is more scarier than the calm deadly self. And for once I thought the HR call is an act of mercy. I'd be happy to get the call than be the receiving end of his anger. Several people came and dragged the woman away, who screamed and yelled, demanding to be released. After the door closed behind them, Lon sat on his seat and started the meeting. I helped our chief with the files and from time to time I noticed him giving me looks of sympathy. Guess it's confirmed then. I'm going to get fired. There goes all my dreams down the drain. ATC is one of the most highest paying companies in the States and it's an honor to get employed here. They only choose the best and I was a lucky one. But not now. A damn hiccup ruined it all. How can life be this unfair? The meeting went on for another hour and thankfully Lon didn't glance at me even once. He only spoke a little words and mostly listened to others' ideas. Maybe it was because he was interested in them or maybe he was too bored to even speak. And I had a feeling it was the latter. And can somebody please tell me why I'm calling him Lon and not Mr. Kingston? Geez, woman first name basis, huh? Probably because he wouldn't be my boss at the end of the day. And why is that? A damn hiccup caused it. I was already preparing mentally for the call. But it was hard to make up my mind to let go of this job. I have friends here and the salary is very high. I don't want to leave. After the meeting ended I went back to the marketing department with a dejected look on my face. What happened? Did you see the hottie? Lexi came and nudged my elbow. I nodded. And I hiccuped in front of the hottie. Brian let out a laugh. That's a good joke. I neither smiled nor laughed, just gave him the same sorrowful expression I'd been wearing all the way down the elevator. Seeing my humorless face, Brian leaned forward in his chair. You really didn't. Haley, Lexi said in alarm. You really didn't hiccup, did you? Please tell me you didn't, I sighed. I did. What do you mean you hiccuped? Brian shrieked and stood up from his chair. It means I hiccuped, in front of Mr. Kingston. Lexi asked. Yep, I sighed again. Oh my poor life. Oh my pathetic life. Are you fucking kidding me? Lexi smacked my head and I groaned in pain. Ouch. It hurts. Are you insane? Why did you do that? He was so handsome, I complained as if that would make any sense. What the fuck does it have to do with that? Brian yelled and our coordinator hushed us. We gave him a small apology and sat in our chairs, pretending to go back to work. You're gonna get fired, you know. Lexi whispered. I know, I threw my hands up. I could literally feel the Prescott dream leaving my bones. That Prescott dream is bullshit, Brian whispered loudly. You can never buy an apartment at the Prescotts, why can't I? Try one day you can fly, you dumb or what? Lexi asked. Only millionaires and billionaires live at the Prescotts, hey. I've been saving up for 4 years, I argued back. Right, Lexi rolled her eyes. 4 years. Save up for another 10 years and still you won't be able to even buy a toilet paper from the Prescotts. Have some faith, people, and where did that faith ended up? With you getting fired, I looked at both of them in disbelief. Geez people, don't rub it on my face. Across the table, Alan, who heard less important parts of our conversation, leaned in and whispered. Did you know that Mr. Kingston lives in a penthouse at the Prescotts? My eyes widened and I turned to Lexi. Really? He does. Yeah, she shrugged. He lives in the most expensive one, damn. I suddenly want to be chairman's daughter. Chairman is a douchebag. So is his wife. Brian made a retching sound and I narrowed my eyes at him. He shrugged and leaned back on his chair. Our work is so boring. Brian yawned and put on his headphones and selected a song in his phone. Mr. Scott. The VP bellowed from the door. Are you listening to music? Brian straightened up and hastily removed his headphones. No ma'am. I was video calling with the sales department. Everyone in the room laughed and the VP's nostrils flared in anger. You take me for a fool, Mr. Scott. No ma'am, then get back to work. Calculate the budget for the next campaign and send it to me in 1 hour. 1 hour? Brian's pupils dilated. Yes, but we haven't even discussed anything or dash, just do what I say. She screamed and everyone's winced at the sound. Then she turned on her heels and stormed out of the room. What a witch, Brian cursed and went back to working. I wasn't in a mood to work knowing this was my last day, but nevertheless I gave it a shot. Better do a majestic leaving, right? I spent the day running from marketing to finance and then back again. Doing the usual. At the end of the day it wasn't a majestic leaving but a typical and a sad one. I still didn't receive the call, so I assumed I might get it later today or tomorrow morning. Nevertheless the result was the same. Me dropping to the position, jobless. As I was packing my things, Ashley, one of the employees here, came running to us. Hey guys, did you hear? She panted heavily, her breathing ragged. Hear what? Lexi asked. Mr. Kingston fired our chief secretary. Brian, Lexi, and I looked at each other in shock. He mistook you for her, Lexi said in disbelief. Oh God, no. I shook my head and slumped into my chair, feeling guilt creep inside me. Mr. Kingston doesn't know my name. He probably would have told the HR to fire the chief secretary. I ran my fingers through my hair. What do I do? I made the real secretary lose her job. Stay quiet, Lexi suggested. Are you kidding me? Brian asked in an accusing tone. What if it was you? What if you got fired because of someone else's mistake? That secretary dash, Lexi stepped forward. Purposely took the sick leave. It's not the first time she did it to ditch a meeting. You don't know that. What if she's actually sick? If you want proof, check her boyfriend's Insta stories, Lexi spat angrily. Guys, shut up. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath to calm myself. I'm going to turn in, what? They both screamed at the same time. Brian came and sat next to me. You don't have to resign. Maybe, talk it out with Mr. Kingston. Are you stupid, Brian? Lexi asked with her hands on her hips. Do you think Mr. Kingston will say, oh, thank you for making things right? Maybe I should take my words back and not fire you. A good employee like you deserve a second chance, she said. Dramatically. It's not what I meant. Then you're clearly stupid. Guys, I held up my hands. For once, stop arguing. I looked at both of them and waited till they relax. I'm going to call the chief first. I took my phone out and started dialing the chief. He picked up in 3 rings. Hello, sir, it's me, Haley. Oh Haley, I guess you heard the news. Yeah, I answered with guilt. I'll resign, sir, I said reluctantly. I didn't want to lose the job, but it was the right thing to do. Don't do anything reckless now. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Come to my office at 8". Then he cut the call. I kept my phone down and looked at it in despair. What did he say? Lexi asked impatiently. He said to come to his office tomorrow. I leaned back in my chair and signed. How can I come to work when I'm supposed to be fired? Don't overthink. Go home and have a good rest. I don't think I'll be able to sleep at all. It was next morning and I knocked on the chief's door. Come in, the chief called and I walked in. The first thing I noticed coming here was that the secretary desk at the front of chief's office was empty. And it was all my fault. I made a big fat mistake and now I should do something before it gets any messier. Oh Haley, come and sit please, chief gestured to the sofa at the middle of the room. I sat on it and someone brought me a cup of coffee. Thank you dash, I looked up and my eyes widened in shock. It was the chief's secretary. You how dash, I stuttered. I came to pack my things, she gave me a small smile and I felt guilt bubbling inside me at a tremendous speed. Gosh I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I am sorry. I felt deeply embarrassed by my actions yesterday. Not for hiccuping though. I mean, you can't control it. Blame the stupid CEO for it. That arrogant narcissistic rude bastard. But I should have resigned the moment I heard the news. I should have set things right. It's fine. I've never liked working here anyways. She took a seat across from me and smiled. I mean the chief is good but being the chief's secretary means I have to constantly see the CEO and it's suffocating, she said in a pained tone. I always wanted to quit but I feared I wouldn't find a job with a salary like this again. But now that I'm fired for something I didn't do, the chief felt guilty and recommended me to another company. He knows their boss and they said they would take me in, so you're leaving? I asked with uncertainty. She nodded. The salary over there is also good and the work environment is much less stressful. I'll go. You can keep your job here, I blinked. Wait what? Keep the job. I turned to the chief. Sir, wouldn't I be deceiving the CEO then? He fires too many people. He won't even remember you. It'll be okay as long as you stay out of his way, but dash, I straight up. Why are you doing this? I mean, this is risky, the chief shrugged. Mr. Kingston is good in his work but I don't approve the way he handles his employees. Firing someone for a hiccup? That is absurd, he shook his head in disapproval. So I can keep the job. I felt a new surge of hope building within me. Is this really happening? Chief nodded and then his face turned all serious. But make sure not to come face to face with the CEO. No one has ever done this before and getting caught would put both of us in trouble. Okay chief, I stood up happily. And thank you, the chief dismissed me and I walked out of the room. My friends were already waiting outside the door, their ears glued to the walls. Seeing me they jumped up and sprinted towards me. What happened? What happened? Tell us quickly. I told them the entire story and they gave me a bone-crushing hug. I'm so proud, Lexi squealed. You pulled a trick no one has ever done. You deceived the CEO, I wouldn't have if I didn't have any choice, I stated firmly. And dash, I spun in a circle, I'm back Prescott. I chirped merrily and both Brian and Lexi groaned. Just give up, never, I shook my head. Within a few seconds my friends gave up trying to convince me and we began walking down the hallway. CEO alert. Lexi cried out and slammed us to the wall. What dash, I turned and saw Lon and his secretary, Daniel striding forward in the hallway. We quickly turned around and faced the wall, hiding our faces from the devil and his sidekick. Shit. What should I do? I cried. Jump out of the window. We are not so high up. You won't die if you jump, are you serious dash, they're coming. They're coming. Lexi whisper yelled. I bit my lip feeling helpless, my palms sweating with anxiety. Tie your shoes laces, Brian suggested. I'm wearing heels, then tie your heels. What dash, Brian pushed me down to the ground and I almost fell on my face. From the corner of my eyes I saw them nearing us. Lon had an irritated look on his face, He glared at all the employees who made eye contact with him. And the employees? I bet they rather wished they were dead. Daniel on the other hand was doing the guard job. He was on alert, his eyes inspecting everyone, checking if anyone was a potential threat. And Lexi, she was giving the biggest smile of the century. 1. She has a weakness for handsome men even if they are rude as hell. 2. When she tries to hide something she gives the weirdest forced smiles. And now she was looking very very suspicious. Geez Lexi. Daniel, who noticed the smile, frowned at her. Lexi tried her best to conceal her flushed face, but she failed miserably. She was blushing so hard. Thankfully Daniel didn't glance at me as he was too busy glaring at Lexi. And only when they walked past us, did I feel like breathing again. Oh my God, I exhaled loudly and sat on the ground. That was so scary, he's so freaking handsome. Lexi cried out and both Brian and I rolled our eyes. Haley, Brian crouched down next to me. You should avoid the CEO from now on. Yep, Lexi knelt down. And we are dash, she raised her hands up, imitating the VP, the Kingston avoiding squad, got it. Avoid the Kingston. But everything doesn't go as planned, does it? He's coming. Duck. All three of us hid under the receptionist's desk as Mr. Kingston entered the building with his secretary by the side. 3 days passed and so far no problems. For the past few days we had been tracking every movement of Lon Kingston. His time of arrival, time of leaving, where he goes for lunch, which department he usually visits, who he meet with, etc. We made notes of everything so that I could use them to avoid meeting him in the future. I began coming half an hour earlier than him and left half an hour after him. I wasn't sure if he remembers me, but better be safe than sorry. What are y'all doing? The receptionist frowned at us. Get out of my desk, Shuv. Brian kept a finger to his lips and hushed her. The receptionist, who had a thin line of patience, stood up from her chair and looked down at us furiously. Either go to your floors or I'll call the security. Brian groaned and peeked over the desk at the lobby. He's gone. We can go now. We all came out of the desk and Lexi took her notebook out to write the newfound information. So now we knows that no matter how late he sleeps, he always arrives on time. Oh yes, we know everything. We knew he had a late dinner with Mr. Wills, the chairman of NCOM, last night. We knew at what time he came out of the restaurant, we knew at what time he went home. And yes, we became Kingston's crazy stalkers. Not a proud title, but very satisfying knowing I had a chance of not getting caught. We took the elevator and went back to our floor to find a glowering VP. Mr. Scott, Miss Evans and Miss Benson, you were late for the morning speech. Oops. Next time you come late, I'll report you to the chief, she threatened and stormed out of the room in fury. As if Chief would listen to her, Brian muttered as we sat down. So, I turned to Lexi. Show me the notebook. What did you gather? She gave it to me and I flipped through the pages. Lexi had somehow managed to get hold of Lan's schedule and it was a blessing. Now I could use it to avoid going to events where he would be present. I dragged my finger down the calendar inside the notebook and stopped at one date. What is this? Fiancé announcing day. She nodded. Mr. Kingston is going to announce his fiancée to the public at the company anniversary party. He has a fiancée? Yeah, she shrugged. I mean, how, when did it happen? I asked in confusion. Well, everybody's talking about it, but you obviously live under a rock, so you wouldn't know, she said mockingly, and I rolled my eyes. Anyways, weeks ago the story about Mr. Kingston having a fiancée got leaked to the media. And the public went nuts. You know, he's the hot handsome bachelor billionaire that everyone wants to marry, she said with a slight frustrated tone. I mean, Mr. Kingston is handsome. Like very. But Daniel dash, she fanned herself. He's the hottest version of hot, what does that even mean? Brian scowled. Back to the story, Lexi, I said impatiently. Fine. So the media kept pestering the Kingston family asking who she is. And Mr. Kingston's mother said that her son would introduce her at the company anniversary party. Damn. How can someone so scary like Lon has a fiancé? I asked in disbelief. I know, right, Lexi sighed. Wait, she turned to me. Did you just call the CEO by his first name? What? I shrugged. No one heard, I heard, Alan said across the table. All three of us groaned at the same time. After studying the CEO's calendar we went back to working. And it was nearly lunchtime when I got up to go to the washroom. I was washing my hands when a woman came crashing out of a stall, bawling her eyes out. She grabbed a bunch of tissues from her purse and wiped her face, but the tears wouldn't stop falling. Her makeup was smudged and her hair was a mess. At the moment she looked like a monster from hell that it took me almost a minute to recognize her. It was the same woman I saw at the executives' meeting. The woman with red hair. The woman who called Lon darling. Yuck. She took her phone out and started dialing a number. As the other end picked up, she began crying to the phone. You promised me. You promised me I could marry him. You promised me. She wept horrendously. But your son doesn't want to marry me. He hates me. He doesn't even look at me. He always tells me to fuck off. She took more tissues out and blew her nose. Whoever was on the other end said something that ticked her off because suddenly she started screaming. No, I want to marry Ian soon. I can't wait. Aha, I hate you, she screamed so loud that I staggered back to the wall, looking frightened. Jesus, this woman scared the shit out of me. She's definitely from hell. No, I'm coming tomorrow also, she said, determined. I'm not stopping. I'll come to his office early in the morning. I'll have him soon. Then she cut the call and stormed out of the washroom, not caring who else listened to the call. Example, me. Wait. Did she say Lon? Oh my God. My eyes widened. She's the fiancé. Shit, I gotta tell this to Lexi and Brian. I sprinted out of the washroom and ran to our desk, almost knocking Lexi out of her chair. What the hell, Haley? Calm down, no time to calm down. Listen, I told them the entire story, and with each second their eyes kept getting bigger and bigger until I feared it would pop out of their sockets. This is so awesome, Lexi squealed. Brian, let's arrive 1 hour earlier. Who knows, we might see her tomorrow. Brian nodded with a huge grin on his lips. Haley, you coming with us? Hell no, I shook my head. I need my beauty sleep. I already come half an hour earlier to avoid the devil. That's my maximum capacity. I looked up at the towering building above me and stretched my arms up. I'm so sleepy, I yawned and bent my hips to the sides, doing my morning exercise routine in front of the ATC entrance. The security frowned and I gave them the army salute. Good morning, gentlemen. Their frown deepened and I laughed before walking inside. It was the next morning and I arrived here alone today since those two buggers came early to see a fiancé. How nice. I took my phone out and gave them a call. Found her yet? She lied, Lexi spat. She didn't come. We searched the entire building. I mean, if you fight for a man, at least do it right. She should have held on to her words, Lexi complained. I lost my sleep. I laughed. Good thing I didn't come. I'm at the lobby now. Wait for me at the elevator. Okay, Your Highness, I snorted and tucked the phone inside my handbag. As I walked to the elevator I saw its doors closing. Wait, I ran. Wait for me, I ran and put my hand through, preventing the doors from closing. The doors began opening again and I looked up with a smile. But it quickly faded away. Because I was looking directly at Lon fucking Kingston.